Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I thought I'd react to the Esports Director election debate that I partook in earlier this year, talk about what I liked about my responses, what I didn't like, and maybe some tips for those of you that may find yourself in a similar situation. The audio on this was from before Alienware sent me my care package, so it's going to be a little scuffed in the original video, so I apologize for that in advance, but hopefully the content will make up for it. We're going to be watching all of the clips from the debate on my Alienware M15 R3 laptop. If you guys can't tell by now, I really love bringing this thing with me everywhere. It's like having a portable desktop I can just throw into my backpack and bring with me. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into these clips. Alright, so this first clip that we're going to dive into deals with how I planned to increase the visibility of esports on campus. I actually really like this question because it's something I wholeheartedly believe in. And again, I'm kind of going to jump back to this, but as a shoutcaster, one of the biggest things that, you learn early on is building a narrative. And that's really what we want to do with these players, because sure, the California State University Fullerton students, and sure, they're good at their games, but why? Why do we care about them other than that? Because realistically, that's not enough for me. And this is part of the reason why when we talk about our structure, I talk so much about wanting to build out the social media team and the content creation team. I think we should be increasing the amount of social posts we have. We should be increasing the amount of content we have, both as like player highlight reels, player interviews, increasing Twitch broadcasts, getting our own broadcast team together as well so that we can cast these games and really just promote all of these teams to the best of our abilities. Again, it's about building a narrative and giving California State University faculty, students, alums, and just the surrounding community a reason to want to rally behind us. Yeah, so this is a fairly decent answer, I think, overall. I talked about building the narrative, and that's something I really do believe in. For questions like these, it's generally okay, at least in my opinion, to overshoot a little bit. And not, obviously these are goals. You're talking about in a perfect world, what are you going to do? And you're not necessarily over-promising, right? Like, I'm going to get Cal State Fullerton at, we're going to be on ESPN and things like that. You're saying, we want to build out content. And it does take some work, and you're not necessarily going to have all the tools that you need to build out the content ideas that you have. But it's still good to explain your plan, put it out there, and talk about what you want to do, so that if you do get the resources that you need in order to accomplish your vision, what you're going to do with those resources. So while I think that the amount of content that I talk about in this may be difficult to achieve, because at Cal State Fullerton right now, esports is all voluntary student positions, I think it's still a good answer. It's a solid answer about talking about building a narrative, getting people to believe in your players, getting people interested in your players. And that's really key to building a brand and building interest in your program. All right, this next question asks how I plan to increase participation within the esports community. Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach on this. And I think that this is more talking about the kind of isolation that the esports organization has internally, because let's face it, a lot of, as it stands currently, there's players on all of these teams, but they've most likely already got their own existing discords. I know the League of Legends team has their own discord as well, even though they are in the CSUF esports server. So it's about trying to bring them together and really encouraging them to all participate in one place. So this is a good start to this question, particularly why I like the start of this question. It doesn't give hyper-specific details, but it still shows that I'm familiar with the environment inside of CSUF Esports. I'm familiar with some of the problems they're facing, and I'm going to address how I plan to tackle this. But so far, this is a good start because it shows I'm familiar with the organization, I'm not coming in blind, and I've already got some ideas on where to start. But let's go ahead and listen to the rest of this. And realistically, that starts at the top. With the director, with the assistant director, and all the way down. And you need to give these players a reason to want to participate, because they're already investing so much of their time and so much of their resources into just being the best they can at these games and winning these games. So there needs to be incentives provided, and really try and build a close-knit community inside of CSUF Esports to get these players to rally behind each other and really support each other. And that's, and then extend that outwards.
And the rest of this is just a pretty solid answer to talking about the accountability from the top down is always a good start with any initiative you want to implement. And then also talking about how you plan to accomplish this. I talk about, trying to build a closer knit community there and the incentives for the players, because these players do work their butts off right now, as this is all volunteer based on campus. These volunteers are putting in their time and their effort to just be the best at their craft. So asking a lot more than that is, just the cherry on top. So you really need to want to incentivize them. Next question up deals with making marginalized groups feel welcome and included in the esports space on campus.
Yeah, I actually think this one's a pretty simple question. Is any organization on California State University, Fullerton, it's already just straight up against any constitution to prohibit that. So there's no current biases or prejudices in CSUF Esports. I intend to keep it that way.
Going back and reviewing, this is a terrible answer so far. This was one of the questions that I had received in advance, and I felt overly confident about it. There aren't any issues with this currently within the organization, but the answer of it's not allowed, so it's not a problem, is absolutely awful. Definitely some overconfidence going into this answer, and it's definitely a terrible start.
But the best assurance I can offer you is that at the end of the day, our goal is to be the best, and you don't get to be the best if you cast a shallow net here. So opening up the population that you're recruiting from, you're inviting into your community to be the widest net possible, to include everyone possible, is the best way to do that. So
this is a little bit better of a follow-up and probably something I should have led with. It's true. If you want to be the best, you don't discriminate. You got to cast as wide of a net as possible to, make sure that you really are reaching everyone, because you never know who's going to be the best at something. Better ways to answer this question, aside from that second part, would be to talk about the policies and the procedures we have in place that are currently preventing preventing it from being a problem. Talk about that and the steps that we're taking to make sure that it doesn't become an issue. Things like this, talking about giving reassurance for that instead of just saying it's not allowed, would have been a much stronger answer here. I probably should have taken a couple of pages out of Alienware's book for this. They've got a couple of programs, Good in Gaming and Defy Boundaries, that strive to promote inclusivity and accessibility in esports. So those would have been good pillars to talk about in this answer as well. And the last question that we are going to take a look at today is one that was asked from the audience. Do you lack any skills necessary for the position of esports director? So this is just a little bit of a different phrasing on a common "what is one of your weaknesses" question.
No worries. Actually, I have a lot of weaknesses, and this is something that I had the pleasure of learning firsthand during my presidency at League of Legends.
So we're gonna listen to the rest of this answer, and we'll explain about the a lot of weaknesses part here. But so far, I always like tying something in like this, because it's almost kind of, you never want to give an answer to a type of question like this where it's secretly a strength, like, oh, I'm just too good at my job is a weakness. That's not a great weakness. But this is something where it kind of ties in. It's like, I've got some prior experience being a leader on campus with the presidency of the League of Legends club, and I kind of learned about some of my weaknesses there. So you're not doing the thing where you turn the question completely around, but it's still a way to kind of bolster yourself and talk about some of your other qualifications while still giving a solid answer to the question. So let's jump back into it.
I don't really understand social media all too well.
This is very true. I'm not great at social media.
I think I sent my first tweet out about a year ago. I struggle a little bit with content creation.
Hopefully I've gotten a little better with content creation now.
I don't know the exact ins and outs of, how to specifically pick players for a team. But one of the things that I was blessed with, and something that I really came to love about CSUF LOL, is that you get to surround yourself with people who are experts in this and really can build you up and kind of cover your flanks in a sense, because I don't think there's anyone that does know it all, and if they do, then I think they they might be a little overqualified for this position, but I think it's important to recognize what you're good and what you aren't at, and pick the best supporting staff that you can. So I intend to just that with esports and continue to cover my flanks.
So actually, this is another, I thought this was a pretty solid answer as well. And it's true. You don't have to be the best at anything. I think this is some good advice for people that may feel like they don't have all the necessary qualifications for a position. This is one of the benefits of working in an organization like this, is you get to surround yourself with people who really are great at what they do. Because, you know, I can tell you, I don't know a ton about all the games that I manage. They all have pretty intricate environments themselves. I don't know the exact things to look for in these players. And I think it's important to acknowledge that you're not going in pretending to be an expert in all of these things. Knowing how to build a strong supporting team is almost as important, if not more important, than, you know, knowing how to do it all yourself, because you really can't do it all yourself. And if you can surround yourself with a team, you can get these different opinions, these different viewpoints. Everybody's got a different background, and that's how you succeed. So having weaknesses almost in a weird way makes you stronger, because it forces you to bring in other people who can help bolster you up, and, you know, as I mentioned in the videos, cover your flanks in a sense. So I like this. I particularly like this answer. I think it's, you know, a good way of telling people that you're being realistic about your qualifications, your knowledge, and what you're doing to shore up this weakness. So I do like this answer a lot. So those were all of the clips from the debate that I felt were worth reacting to. This was actually an hour-long debate, but I didn't want to include all the clips. There were a lot of really specific campus things related to IT and athletics, talking a little bit about the candidates' backgrounds and why we think we're the most qualified. I've talked about my background in a few other videos, and I don't necessarily want to react to a clip of me essentially bragging about myself for why I'm the most qualified for the position. And there were a bunch of other questions that I just didn't think were too worthy of reacting to. But overall, it was a really enjoyable experience. It's the ability to kind of sit there and, you know, rationalize your position on things and give the voters some insight into your plan, your vision, things like that. It's a really nice format that you don't get too often, and you kind of get a little bit of a window into the mind there that you don't necessarily get over like kind of like a text bio or something like that. So it was my first actual debate, so it was a pretty fun experience. Definitely some things to take away, some things to improve in the future as always, but overall I enjoyed the experience. And to wrap this video up, I just wanted to talk about a couple of tips I'd have for those going into their first debate, or maybe some that are just kind of looking to improve their game a little bit. And the first thing to do is definitely be prepared. Do a little bit of, you know, if you need to do some research, do a little bit of research. Hopefully you are already familiar with whatever you're having a debate on. If you get the questions in advance, definitely prepare for those. If you don't have questions in advance and it's going to be all random, kind of prepare yourself with some of your own questions, things that you think are good to answer, have answers on hand. Pay attention to the style of the debate. If it's definitely something where you have it's not appropriate to go negative, I wouldn't do so. Just kind of keep that level of professionalism. If it is something where you can go negative, obviously that would be your choice. And this debate, we kept everything pretty friendly and professional, so, you know, it would have been inappropriate to bash the opposition in this one. The next piece of advice I would have is to kind of two parts here. Definitely remain engaged throughout the entire debate. Make sure it looks like you are, well, hopefully you actually are paying attention, but at least it looks like you're paying attention. You are on display here. And then the other part to paying attention is that you really want to listen to your opposition's answers here. You never know when, you know, listening to one of their answers is going to give you the opportunity to kind of improve on something they've said. And you can do this without being negative, but just a way to build on it, something to professionally critique later in the video. Or later in the debate. It's just paying attention is going to give you more opportunities and more information than you would have otherwise. And the last piece of advice is kind of, don't get thrown in, is this kind of weird advice, but expect the unexpected. For example, in this video, we did a rotating style where someone would answer, then I would answer, and then for the next question, I would start off, and then it would rotate through. There were two candidates in this one. we had a couple of prepared questions and a couple of spontaneous questions. And just the way it shook out, I had to answer first for all of these spontaneous questions. And that meant that I didn't get to prepare. I could have, you know, complained or said something or been like, oh, you know, this isn't fair. My opponent's getting the opportunity to prepare their answers for these spontaneous questions that I've got to answer immediately after. But it's just something you got to be prepared for. You don't want to look like you're upset or shaken or anything like that to the audience. And of course, this wasn't intentional. It just happened to be how it shook out. And it's just something you got to roll with. So being able to, you know, kind of roll with the punches and whatever happens in your debate is going to be important too, because the more calm, cool, and collected you look, the more people are going to pay attention to what you have to say and respect your answers. With that in mind, I think that's all of the tips and reactions I've got for this video. I really enjoyed making this one, so I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. This was a pretty fun format to record and something different from the traditional just kind of style we do on here. With all that in mind, if you guys have any questions or need any advice, you are more than welcome to reach out to me. And as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.